And we should be live. Just about. I'm going to be answering your questions, so let me know if you have any questions. Say hello, tell me where you're from. I'm really curious to know who's showing up to these things. I've been noticing that a number of you have been coming back, and I think part of that is because I'm doing it earlier in the day, because depending on where you are, you may or may not see this. But yeah, I'm here to answer your questions, whatever it's about, whether it's software, whether it's business, my advice on books, whatever it is, just let me know. I'm here to talk to you guys about all sorts of fun things. So I'll just be waiting for your questions until we actually get some. Let's see here. Rita, hello, welcome. Thanks for coming out. Where are you from? I think you might have told me this already, but tell me again. You know? Engineer, programmer, hello. How's it going? Watson, hi from DR. Where's DR? I'm not sure what that abbreviation stands for. John, yo, what's up? Where are you from, John? Raul, hey, how's it going? Goodwin, you're welcome for answering your questions. Thanks for asking them. Engineer, programmer from Germany. Nice. I've landed in Germany one time. It was cool. I liked it. Let's see here. My live stream chat is not wanting to show up right now. Well, that's not any fun, is it? What is going on here? That is kind of a bummer. Questions are not showing up on screen. Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of work on trying to get these questions up and make it a lot easier for me to answer questions. But for some reason, this current live broadcast is not wanting to show up. And I'm not exactly sure why. And I think I got it. Cool. Let's see here. Thanks for bearing with me on these new, or not new, but these ongoing technical issues, trying to get these things up in the live stream. At some point, they'll be solved, but instead of spending a ton of time trying to solve them, I'd rather spend a bunch of time talking to you guys. Rita, so can I explain async? And you're from Lebanon. Great. Welcome from Lebanon. So asynchronous programming is when things can happen concurrently. I want you to think of this in terms of a chess game. I'm not sure where I heard this analogy, but I think it's pretty good. So synchronous programming is you have 10 chess games that you're going to play, and you basically play one game after another. That means you play game one, you do the entire game, and then you move to game two, and then you do the entire game, and then you move to game three, and you do the entire game, and so on, right? Asynchronous programming says you take all 10 of those games, and you actually switch back and forth. So you make a move in game one, and then you move to game two and make a move, and then you move over to game three and then make a move, or play your hand, or whatever it is in the game. It's not play your hand, it's make a move, but you would just be switching back and forth. So it's like happening concurrently to each other. At least that's how asynchronous works in a lot of the programming languages you might use. True asynchronous would be at the exact same time these things are happening asynchronously, like they're running next to each other. But especially in Python, they happen concurrently, so they're switching back and forth. It actually speeds things up quite a bit, or can speed things up quite a bit, because it's leveraging more of what your system can do, which is pretty cool. Hopefully that answers your question. Thank you for that. I'm also going to try and put on this little voting thing. So this is continuing some of the votes from last time. As you see, it's 22 votes. So to vote here, all you need to do is comment with one of those hashtags. Hashtag A, hashtag B, or hashtag C. Or you could do all three of those. It doesn't actually matter. You can literally use all three, just make sure there's enough space between them. That's how you actually vote here. And hopefully this works. I see that we got one vote already, so that should move up to 23 after a few seconds, maybe. Give it a second. Let me just try something here. And it's not working again. That's a bummer. Okay. Not sure why. Thanks for bearing with me on that. You guys can stop voting. It's definitely not coming through, unfortunately. Another little glitch. I will check that out soon. If not, later today, maybe tomorrow. We'll see. John, you're from PH. Where's PH? What's that abbreviation for? From Nigeria. Hey, what's up? How's it going? Welcome. And Argentina. Hey, how's it going? DR is Dominican Republic. Oh, great. Nice. From Ghana. Cool. Do I have spaces left? Spaces for the bootcamp? Yes, it's completely open right now. I haven't opened anything yet because I'm going to be doing a live stream for the day 0. So the introduction is really just about showing you guys how all of this is working, right? That's it. So hopefully I'll be able to answer a bunch of questions in there related to it. Hey guys, you know what? I think it's working. Sweet. Okay, so we can vote again. I'm gonna leave this on for a little bit. I think it was just the refresh was taking a little bit of time, but I will leave this on, so feel free to vote on things that I should be doing as far as how to go live. But I'll still be answering questions. I just wanted to say, hey, it actually is working. It just needed a little bit of time to propagate. No surprise there. Cool. Hi from India, welcome. Pakistan, welcome. You're a complete beginner in Python. Check out my 30 Days of Python series. That is going to be one that's really good for you from starting in there. Can we make progressive web apps with Django? Yes, Django would be serving as the backend to the actual progressive web app. So it's not actually the part of the progressive web app itself. That would most likely have to be in JavaScript. And I will say, if you guys spam, I'm just gonna hide you from the chat and the channel. You won't necessarily know it. I don't think you get alerted to if you're spammed or not. So just letting you know. Cool. Why are we using context processor? So in Django, is that where you're referring to? How to use context processors in Django? So when it comes to a template, your template engine has the ability to have additional context to it. Context processors give you some of that stuff, right? So it gives you additional context that you can use inside of your templates. Good question. Let's see here. Django books that I like. Really, the only Django book that I've reviewed ever is 2 Scoops of Django from Danny Greenfield, which I think he goes by Fieldroy now. But Danny Fieldroy and 2 Scoops of Django, they are great. They have a number, him and his wife do it, I believe, Audrey Fieldroy. They have a number of 2 Scoops of Django. I mean, you could literally pick 2 Scoops of Django 1.8 and get a lot of really good nuggets in there. But then, of course, Django.com or DjangoProject.com is also an incredible book. It's not just called a book. It's not actually a book. It's called documentation, but it basically is a book. From Wanda. Hey, what's up? From France. Hey, were you on the other day? Did we talk the other day? I think we might have. Same questions. Bangladesh. Hello. You just watched my Try Django series. That's great. Which one did you? Yeah, you have to use, I believe this is in reference to the progressive web apps. You have to use JavaScript. Yes, you need a client of some kind, and JavaScript, I think, is the predominant one at this point. Cool, so it looks like, oh, I didn't realize my, that's funny. The poll actually rearranged things. I don't remember ordering it like that, but looks like you guys want to see me code a live project. That seems to be the winner of that poll, at least at this point. 41 votes certainly is not an incredible amount of votes, but if you haven't voted yet, just comment by using one of those hashtags. Hashtag C, hashtag A, or hashtag B. That will actually count your vote. And it'll be mostly largely ignored by the questions that I'm answering. If you don't put the hashtag there, it's not going to count it. From Canada, what's up? How's it going? I went to Vancouver not that long ago. Well, maybe it's like, geez, maybe it is a long time ago now. Might have been 5 years ago, actually. It's great. I really, really enjoy Vancouver. Beautiful, beautiful area. I was there in the summer too, so yeah. Tomorrow is the boot camp. Actually, it is the 30th, so that's Wednesday. I'm doing an info session, so it's about the boot camp, and it's on Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So hopefully you guys can make it. It's an info session for this boot camp. I'm really trying to figure out exactly the best way to go about building the boot camp, because I originally was going to do it this weekend, do the first one this weekend, excuse me. But that first one, it just fell through a little bit, and because there's a number of back and forth with a lot of people. So I just want to clarify things. So we're going to jump on live. I'm going to answer as many questions, hopefully, on there as I can. Hey, Rez. I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you? Thanks for coming out. How do you upload a video to YouTube using Python? Yeah, so this is a good question. So to upload a video, sorry about that blurriness. To upload a video with Python, you have to create a session, an OAuth 2 session, or I believe you can use a service account. So using a service account would be that you are granting your application using that service account and using Google's built-in libraries for Python. I don't remember the name of the library off the top of my head, but there's an authentication library that Google has that uses that service account to use the YouTube API. I think OAuth 2 is a lot easier, but it actually adds the layer of needing a Django or Python, some sort of web application that allows you to authenticate with the Google services so you can build tokens and whatnot. So after you get the tokens, then you use those tokens to actually just call one of the APIs that allow you to upload videos there. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it. I will say it's a very quick way to cut through and actually get a question answered is just by asking a super chat question. You know? I think you do know that. That's why you probably asked. Cool. Thank you again. Next one, suggestion on a full website tutorial on the FastAPI. Yes, I intend to do this. Hopefully soon. Hopefully in the near future, I will be covering stuff like this. But I've been doing a ton of these live streams, and certainly these live streams take away from me actually producing and building courses. Because even if I'm on here for an hour, answering questions for an hour is a little draining, a little bit more draining than just recording a course that I pretty much already had mapped out and planned. So that means that I'm not incredibly productive right after doing these things. So someday I will definitely have a FastAPI course if you wanted all of the other information that I just gave you. Hopefully you did. When will we have a mega course on neural networks? Yeah, that's a good question. I think I need a lot more practice with neural networks. I have a really good base right now, but I need to solve. Me personally, I feel like I need to solve a lot more challenges that come up in learning about neural networks and building them. And then once I do that, then I'll be able to teach them a lot better, I think, and make it as approachable as possible. There's a number of them out there that are really good. So fast.ai, not FastAPI, but fast.ai. That's a really good one to check out, because FastAI, I mean, he wrote a library. Jeremy Howard wrote a library on actually covering so much about neural networks. That's a really good one. And then I think that this book right here, I'll just lift it up. Just give me 1 second. This is called Grokking Deep Learning by Andrew Trask. This is a fantastic book. I probably need to do a review of it, but it really gets into the nuts and bolts of what's behind a neural network, so you can learn about the various math pieces of it. I don't think it's super complicated math individually, but once you start to build it bigger, it starts to get complicated again. Thanks for the question. Engineer Programmer, hello again. Welcome back. Watson, Python developer or Django developer? I need your suggestions. Well, a Django developer is a Python developer, so I don't think that they're mutually exclusive, with one exception, right? Django developers aren't necessarily actively building other Python applications. Python developers that don't do Django aren't necessarily building Django applications. So I understand that there is a little bit of nuance in this question. So to me, being more resilient with programming is more important than being more resilient with a web framework. Because if you could master Python and know it incredibly well and dabble into all of the web frameworks as well as many, many other things, then Django is going to be a lot easier. So I would say spending your time becoming a full-on Python developer is a really good way to go about doing things. Now, to me, my skills got much better in Python by becoming a Django developer. So I kind of did them together, but it was Django that really pushed me over the hump. So I would really just pick one and stick with it, or like pick a specific project, stick with it, improve it over and over again, and then learn all the technology you need to really do either or both of those things. Please make some clones with Django. Tweet me too. I just released that one a few months ago. It's Django and React.js. It's kind of like Twitter. It's Twitter-like. It's not meant to be an exact replica of Twitter, because I don't think that's incredibly productive. I think actually learning the fundamental concepts behind what drives a lot of these applications is what's important. And that's what that Tweet Me Too series is all about. Cool. I have questions about traversing through a tree in Python. Okay, what are your questions? Please be more specific. Hello from Russia. Hello. How do you pronounce your name? I know there's a way to pronounce it. I believe there's a way, I should say, to pronounce it in English, but I'm not exactly sure how to do that. All right. Why increment and decrement operator result depends upon a compiler. So why do these depend on the compiler? That's a good question. I think it's mostly related to the fact that whatever's compiling it needs to understand how to actually increment or decrement, and thus the operator depends upon that specific compiler. That's my my intuition. I wouldn't say I know that for sure. Cool. Lifelight, are you live coding today, or is this a Q&A? This is a Q&A. What you see right here is just a poll about future times. Like, what do you want me to do in the future? So I'm doing a lot more polls like this, and I'll have another one soon. Maybe after, I don't know, 20 more votes, 10 more votes. In a certain amount of time, I'll definitely put another poll on here, because I want to do more of these polls so I can get a better sense of where you guys want me to take things. And as you see, the poll is a little buggy, which is something I definitely need to work out. but I really just wanted it up. The vast majority of you want to see me actually code a live project, as we see that here. So my sense was, here we go. I thought that this one would be a lot more popular, and that's the route I was starting to go. But it sounds like you guys want to see me code a project live. And I'm assuming that having some questions or answering some questions while I actually code live is probably a big part of that. So, yeah. Thanks for the question. And super chat, life light. Thank you. Do you think web developers need to get involved with mobile development? Yeah, so React Native is an amazing way to do that, right? So if you know React.js, jumping into React Native is an amazing way to do that. If you know Angular, you can use Ionic. Actually, React also, I can't remember if it's React Native or React.js, but React has support in Ionic as well. So yeah, mobile development is really interesting. I'm always skeptical of the long-term viability of someone who owns a specific platform, right? So like Apple and Google own the mobile space, right? The mobile platform. But the internet is still the most dominant, even beyond the mobile platform, because all of these mobile apps depend on some sort of web backend. Maybe not every single one, but the vast majority of them do. So you'll definitely need some backend development at some point for these applications. Now, you can use things like Firebase, where they're like plug and play backend solutions, but it's not like you won't ever have a backend with these mobile systems. Even if it's a distributed backend, there's going to be some sort of backend that's driving a lot of the data that's in a lot of these mobile applications. So yeah, it's a natural progression for a backend developer to go front end, and then from front end to go and build another kind of client. And a mobile app is just another kind of client that you would end up using. That doesn't mean it's trivial. That doesn't mean that it's not important. They are incredibly important. And I do think if you have any interest in that, React Native is one of the best ways to go about doing it, in my opinion. Thanks for the question. Is web scraping behind authentication required? Behind an authentication, is it illegal? So I can't speak to the actual legalities for sure, but I know there was a landmark case against LinkedIn that deemed it legal, that you could actually go in and scrape it as long as you're not like hacking their system, which they're not deeming web scraping as hacking their system. Like you're not breaking into things that aren't publicly displayed, essentially. So all of the things with web scraping, for the most part, are publicly displayed. So I don't believe it is considered illegal any longer. It was a gray area there, at least in the United States. I don't know what it's like in other countries. There was a gray area there, but I think at the end of the day, if you're really concerned about that, hitting up an attorney that can help really answer that, or maybe multiple attorneys that can really help answer that, might be a good idea. In fact, like if any of you know an attorney that I can talk to, and we could just jump on a call, like a live chat or something like that, I would love to actually put that on the channel. I think it's an important thing to really navigate for these things. So yeah, thanks for the question. Let's do Django with TensorFlow. That's a cool idea, but Django is, I think, not best suited to running machine learning applications, especially if you use Django with a bunch of users. I'll get into that a lot more later, because I do intend to have machine learning and Django connecting to it. But I think it's a lot better to use something like FastAPI or Flask, a really, really small framework, and then have Django call those small frameworks with your machine learning model as a microservice, so that your machine learning model, if there's any issues with it, or if the memory's too high, or whatever it is, that's isolated to one application, and it's not going to affect your main project. Of course, you could have a small Django application doing that too. It doesn't have to be FastAPI or Flask. But the main idea is that it's outside the context of your primary Django application that's going to be calling and using that machine learning model. Cool. So got a number of votes here for this. Looks like you guys want to see me code a project live. I would imagine just pretty much any project, just see how it's done and then answering questions. Thanks for answering those polls. Now, if you're not familiar with this, you just vote by replying with any of the hash, and then one of these letters. It's so weird. This is not intuitive to point at these things. Okay, cool. So now here is another poll for you guys. Please feel free to answer it. Hopefully it'll refresh. There it is. Please let me know. I am very curious about this. Sorry about the ordering of it. I definitely need to fix that. All these little bugs. Always example of bugs in production. The live chat bugs are a little bit harder to diagnose until you get into production because it relies so much on all of the variances that happen in live chats. But what actually happened was not necessarily a bug. It was just a delay. Like, I didn't realize that this was delayed a bit too much. Cool. And also, you guys can vote for multiple things, just so you know, right? So you can use all three of these if you like, if you want to see all of them. Just make sure there's a space in between there. Sorry if you already heard that. I just want to make sure that people know from other places. Hey, lots of love from India. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. You're in India as well. Thank you. Rita, thank you for asking your question. Already answered this one. To make a complete series on machine learning or deep learning, yes, I intend to. Waiting for the Django REST framework. I actually cover that quite a bit. So thanks for the question there. Which programming language do you prefer? Python. I know it's technically a scripting language, just like JavaScript is a scripting language, but Python, definitely Python. I'm really starting to get an affinity towards JavaScript as well, but those are the two I use all the time, so they're the ones I know the best. I'm sure there's other ones that if I gave them a lot more time, I would be like really into it, I'm sure. Hey, how's it going? Thank you. Thank you for commenting. Appreciate it. Thank you. You are awesome. Appreciate it. Okay. How to get a single record from a database in Django and show in templates. Well, I'm not going to show you how to code it right now, but I will say that you use your model name, objects.get, and then maybe an ID or some sort of query that will grab that single record. And then that data, you set it to a variable like obj equals all of that stuff. And then you add that into context into a template rendering function. And then you just render it into a template. It's really that simple. Yeah. So, cool. And I will say your votes, if you are voting and they're not showing up, you can really only vote once. So it's gonna move you around if you do change your vote later. So that's something else that's kind of cool. Is you can literally re-vote, but it's gonna move what your vote is. So Milton, I see that you have moved your vote around a little bit. It should move it around if there's not more bugs. It seems like maybe there might be. I don't know. Maybe it'll come in. There we go. Ah, yes. Make more courses. Interesting. No surprise there. Okay. Hey, from India. Hello. Can you make a free or paid course on how to make a production app using Django? I actually do that a lot. I do that a lot where we go into production. I'm not actually sure. I don't remember if Tweet Me 2 goes into production, so maybe somebody else can let me know. But certainly the e-commerce course that I have, that really big e-commerce course, even it's a few years old, but it definitely covers how to go into production, and it's definitely still relevant today. Just use the version that's in the video. That's my tip there. Love from Bangladesh. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I already answered that one. You want IT-related quiz questions? Oh, that's a good question. Check out Network Chuck, his YouTube channel. He might have some IT-related quiz questions on there for like DevOps and stuff like that. I don't have any, and I don't know of any. So if you do find some, please let me know. Shoot it to me on Twitter. Let's see, my Twitter handle is that. Cool. Thanks for the question. Brief overview of full stack development. Which languages and libraries control which aspects of a website, such as a message board? Ooh, this could be a long answer. So the front end, or the top of the stack, is some sort of client library. So React or Angular, or even just HTML and CSS. It doesn't need to be JavaScript. It could be a mobile application, but you said a website. So that's the top stack. Is something in JavaScript, most likely with HTML and CSS. The next part is you're going to have something like Nginx or Apache, which is a web server that actually helps route to your application layer, which is where Django or Flask or FastAPI live. Apache, Nginx don't necessarily always live there. Other things might. Like if you're on Heroku, you just declare a proc file and Heroku handles the routing and the web server side of things. But then you use Django, something like that. And then behind Django is a database of some kind, like PostgreSQL, MySQL. But then to make all of those things run in the back end, there needs to be a number of servers that are actually running with a whole lot of different services. So thanks for the question there. That could be like an hour-long discussion, I think. Hopefully that summarizes it well enough for you. Pass down a filter as a parameter when it renders. Not sure what that's for. Can I make a tutorial on a Google Product API with Django? What do you mean Google Product API? Is that like their product search? Do they have an API for that? Thanks for the suggestion. Lifelight, hello again. Thanks for the super chat earlier. If I'm not getting to your question because I'm already 20 minutes behind, that's because I have a lot of questions that are coming through. I definitely want to get to your questions. A really quick way to do that is just doing a super chat. It supports the channel and it helps me answer your question a lot faster. So it's, I think, a win-win. I don't know, maybe you don't. But I do appreciate when you guys do super chats. Okay, why do we use a constant declaration before data type variable? For example, const int x equals to 2. So you're asking me something that's not Python or JavaScript, right? This might be Java. I don't know Java well enough. But essentially, in some programming languages, you have to declare that you're creating or using a variable. So const typically means that it's a constant. This variable cannot change in the future. Now, if you know Python, you never actually have to declare const or let or var. So const means that the variable in the rest of the program can never change. Now, the language you're using, I'm not positive what it is. So I will say that if it's JavaScript, you would use var or let, and those things will actually allow you, specifically, you're probably going to be using let, that will allow you to change the value of that variable in the future. Python doesn't have that kind of variable naming. So hopefully that answers the question. What's the future of Django? A lot more asynchronous features built into it. And potentially, I wouldn't be surprised if they start to build in native features for rendering React or Vue or maybe even Angular. Maybe those native features will come into Django as well. Or Django will build their own front-end client framework in lieu of using the Vue template. They haven't talked about this at all, but it would be really cool to see that, where that the REST API, the Django REST API, is native into Django as well. So those would be really cool things. But if you want to see what they're working on for asynchronous stuff, do a search for Andrew Goodwin. He just recently gave a talk on the future of asynchronous stuff in Django in AUCon, or Python Australia conference. So check that out. It's a really good talk. It's like 20 minutes long. Andrew Goodwin's one of those core developers too. Yeah. Hi from Togo. Where is Togo? What continent? Thank you for the question. How do you code a question and answer model in Django? Actually, Django's documentation has a polls tutorial for that. Like, it's specifically polls. Kind of like this. This is all in Django, but not exactly like that. So, yeah, thanks for the question. Next up, love you, bro. Learned a lot from you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Tech Insider. Okay, so clearly, at least today, you guys want a lot more courses, but it seems like maybe podcasting and vlogging are not, they're not nothing. I mean, it's not a whole lot of actual votes, so maybe we can get a few more votes in there, and then I'll move to whatever the next poll is. The next poll is going to be about polls. Rez, what are some things that a Python programmer should cover before learning JavaScript? I'm intermediate in Python and want to learn JavaScript next. What should you know? I mean, if you know classes and functions and variables and maybe list comprehensions, and you can build full applications and some testing, you're probably ready to start picking up JavaScript. To me, it's like if you have a project in mind, you might need to learn both of them at the same time. But it sounds like you might be ready, being intermediate in Python already. Hey, I'm at a medium level of Django and Python. How do I become a pro? I'm assuming you mean, in this case, how do you get better at building these things? Because I think saying medium level, it's incredibly arbitrary and really hard to assign where you are in relation to other people, right? Like, who's the best in the world at Django? I don't know. Probably some of the core developers, but even them, they might be like, oh no, this other guy is really good, or this other girl is really good, you know. So yeah, I don't have an answer for the relativeness of how good you can be. But how do you get better? It's simple. You just make a bunch of projects. Hopefully you actually get paid to make those projects. So if you freelance right now at pretty much any level, just being very clear and honest that, hey, you have a lot to learn still with Django, but you're willing to work hard for whoever this client is or whatever this job is, you can absolutely start to get a lot better that way. Another way is to actually teach people. So something that didn't fully make sense to you, as soon as it does make sense, actually explaining what that challenge was. Like, I just recently did a Python regular expressions video. I think it's in 30 Days in Python. And that to me was what unlocked regular expressions in general, is by chunking them down even smaller. And I just made a whole course on it. I think a lot of people can benefit from that as well, because regular expressions can be daunting. But that's what I think is a really good way to get better at being a Python and Django developer, is to build a lot more projects and then teach the things that you find really interesting. Yeah. You want to make a video player with Python. Unfortunately, if you're trying to have it on the web, you're going to use JavaScript. You'll need to use JavaScript to actually play the videos. Other than that, you can look at MoviePy. MoviePy is pretty good. I've done a bunch of things with MoviePy here on YouTube. So, well, maybe not a bunch of things, but at least a few things. So check that out. to play videos and manage videos with Python. Let's see here. Got that question already. YouTube API. That's something I probably should cover. It requires OAuth 2, so it would require, or for the vast majority of us, it would require OAuth 2. So it would mean that I need to build some sort of REST API backend. Yeah. What's the average salary for a web developer? I don't know that answer. Maybe Indeed.com would know that for sure, or like Glassdoor or something. But I would say if you're actually a web developer, not a web designer, you know, anywhere, if you're very junior, you might make like 30,000 a year. But if you're like pretty good and you can make a lot of web applications from scratch, mostly like Django or using a framework of some kind, not using WordPress. Well, I mean, WordPress developers can make a lot too, but I would say like maybe 60,000 at least US, all the way upwards of 150 to 200,000 as a really serious web developer. But the average salary is probably around 60, 70,000 is my guess in the United States. But I mean, that doesn't take into account where you are or where you live, and also everything that's going on with COVID in 2020 and remote. And I'm sure a lot of the salaries have changed quite a bit because of all that, in the sense that you can work anywhere, so they're not going to necessarily pay you a San Francisco wage if you live in not San Francisco, you know, or not New York or not LA, or, you know, if you live pretty much anywhere else, maybe not London or something, you know, if you live in a less expensive place, most likely the job that you're getting is going to pay you a lot less, right? Unfortunately, huh? Okay, so generic class view or function-based view to use in Django. Both are great. I use class-based views all the time. It's a lot faster to build things with class-based views because you're not rewriting all of the same core functionality over and over again like you do in function-based views. Okay, now I'm going to pick a random one. Android is open source. That is correct. I think you're probably responding to somebody else. Confused choosing a path to Node.js or Django. Okay. So you are actually comparing Node.js to a web framework. Node.js is not a web framework. For that, you need something like Express.js. And even with that, it's more closer to comparing Express.js to like Flask. Django is full featured. If you've been on any of these live streams, I've pretty much answered this every single time. Node.js is a runtime. Python is a runtime, right? So you when you're using Django, you're using a runtime of Python. So this is not a great comparison. And what you want to learn is the difference between Node.js or Python, learn those things, and then start moving into one of the web frameworks for them. For Node.js is Express.js, I believe is the most dominant one there is. And then you use something like SQLize to actually integrate with the backend. Django, you just need to have a SQL database, and then you can just wrap it into Django, and then you're off to the races. What kind of things interview is looking for in any projects? I'm not quite sure what you're asking me here. I think actually having a bunch of unit tests, so make it really easy to run your projects, and having unit tests will do that, and actually really clear documentation on how to run your project too. That's another thing I think is pretty important for that. Thanks for the question. There's probably a lot of other things. This is probably where actually talking to a hiring manager would be a good place for that. Okay, let's see here. Here we go. This one is definitely aligned with me doing these polls. I think it's interesting to have a poll so I can get some direct feedback on you guys. But maybe not this many polls, maybe just 2 polls a day or towards the end or something. Or maybe just one. I don't know. anyways, feel free to vote for that one. Ideally, you only vote for one of them, not both of them. Let's see here. Okay, so we're getting some yeses. Good to see for everyone, right? It's not just for me, because we all get to see this. And if I get better, if I make better polls, then that would be good too, huh? Let's see here. I hope you're doing good and staying safe. I am, thank you. I hope that you feel that way too, and that's happening with you and all of you. Should I be having statistics knowledge in programming? It really depends on what you're trying to do. So if you're doing data science and machine learning, it's a good idea to know some statistics, right? If you're not doing data science, you're not doing machine learning, then you probably don't necessarily need to know that much about statistics. It really just depends on the applications you're building. Like the vast majority of Django applications don't have you don't need to know much in math to be successful in building those applications. There might be a point where you'll need to do that, but I think if you have some momentum, like learning statistics to solve a specific problem that you're having is like pretty easy to do then, right? You're like super motivated to do it. So to me, you don't have to know these things. Now, I think math is fascinating for sure. I always thought prior to like actually building web applications myself or any application, I always thought like, oh, you need to know a lot of math to be a programmer. And that's just not always the case, right? I think to be an elite programmer, yes, you will actually learn and really study math and know it really well. But to build a lot of web applications, you don't need to do that. Thanks for the question. Can I make a project with React and Django? Have you seen my Tweet Me 2 series? I literally just did this entire thing, all of it. It's like 12 hours long. Definitely worth it, I think. All right. Just letting you know, Dragon Girl, this is not for the Django Bootcamp. I'm going to be discussing all of that on Wednesday. So check my scheduled live streams on my channel and just join that one. This one's just a general Q&A right now. Thanks for the question. Is it better learning Python and Django while watching videos or reading books? It really depends on how you learn. I think the best way to do it is by taking whatever you're learning and actually apply it right away. To me, that's the best way to do it, always. So hopefully that answers your question. But pick the way that you like doing it and just do that, you know? Like sometimes you like watching videos, sometimes you read books and stuff like that, you know? Oh, thanks for the live chat, Dave. Appreciate it. I noticed you did not give a comment or anything, but thank you for the support. Even $1. It's like, it's great. I mean, you just, you know? I mean, every little bit helps. These questions are great too. I really enjoy them. So thank you guys for asking all of your questions. Where was your last full-time tech job? Cuttingforentrepreneurs.com. Can you tell me what is best source to learn about architecture and structure of a good application? So I think you mean the DevOps of it, the architecture for the actual server. But as far as the structure of like a Django application, they have a lot of best practices, but 2 Scoops of Django I think would be a good place to look, right? So 2 Scoops of Django is a book, covers a lot of the best practices for Django. It's really good. And I believe Danny Greenfield also, I think he also live chats too, or live streams. I think it might be on Twitch though, the author of that book. That's a good place. Now, if you want to know the IT related things, I I refer people to Network Chuck all the time because he covers a lot of really good things in IT. So yeah. Oh, cool. So it looks like some of you guys like these live polls. Yeah, seems like it. Seems like it. Thanks for the live chats, guys. Pipeline. Hey, how's it going? Thanks for the email. I appreciate it. I will get back to you. Just come out more. That's going to be the gist of it. Just come out and say hi and all that. So you guys, if you haven't watched Pipeline's videos, you should. He's got a lot of really good stuff on there, and I admire his hard work. And I also admire the fact that he's on here a lot, saying hi. He's definitely making his way on YouTube. So check it out. How do I find time for another live session? Yeah. So to me, it's been a couple things. Number one, I find this project interesting. So actually making like some UI, if you will, on these live chats using Django, using React. And you know, obviously they're not perfect, as you can tell. I do have some glitches and stuff like that, but I think over time they'll start to get pretty good, right? So I find that actually pretty interesting, and it's kind of like, should probably make this a little bit bigger, huh? And you know, doing things on live like this, it's not ideal. It's not ideal to live test software necessarily, but you know, these are just like sort of auxiliary things. These are nice to have while doing a live stream. So I find it really interesting. So if you're doing live streams too, just let me know. I would love to get some feedback on somebody else using these tools and if they're really easy and stuff like that. So at some point, I'll have to release that too. So to me, it's like, if I can jump on and answer a bunch of questions and really help someone like get over a hurdle they were having, it's fantastic. It's like really important to me, because I can imagine being in that position. Like I had a few times where I would spend hours trying to figure something out, and that's part of the process, as you probably know. But when somebody could just nudge you in the right direction, that's like an amazing win. So yeah, I think these live sessions are becoming a habit for me, and I want to continue doing them, assuming I don't do them too long, right? So like the other day I did one for like an hour and a half, and it just took a lot out of me just to answer questions for an hour and a half and hopefully be entertaining the whole time. I doubt it, right? So like 500 people aren't staying on for the entire thing, so it's not super entertaining. But I also I don't know. I try my best. That's the point. So thanks, Pipeline. Appreciate it. Appreciate what you do, and thanks for the super chat. Next one, Dave. Thanks for the next super chat. I love that you're using 99, like 99 cents, $2.99. That's funny. Any advice on getting freelance work, Upwork? This is actually a perfect time. It sounds like you guys want to see me keep doing polls. So this is a perfect time for my next poll as well. So getting freelance work. Yes, you can go on Upwork. You can go on Freelancer. I think even Fiverr, you can do freelance work there, programming. To me, it's like charge way less than you normally would initially to build some momentum and build some clients, and then set a metric. Maybe it's like, oh, the first $5,000, I'm going to charge like 10% of my normal rate, right? And then after that, after I hit $5,000, then I'm going to move it up to 50% of my normal rate. And then after I hit $20,000, I'm going to be my full rate. Because I made $20,000 from freelancing. But until you get there, that's what your rate should be. It's practically next to nothing. You're just working really hard, so you gain a lot of demand to actually for your services for freelancing, right? So I think of this in terms of like, hey, I have something really quick that I need done. I'm going to hire somebody for $30 to do it, right? $30 is not going to get, like, me personally, I would not take on any project for $30, right? It just would not be worth my time to do that. However, if I was freelancing and trying to make a name for myself, I would totally do that. I would try and do 50 of those a day if I could. You know what I mean? Like that'd be great. Obviously, you'd be putting a lot of work in to make that happen, and that's the point. So with freelancing, or if you're starting a course or a YouTube channel, or even if you're still doing a YouTube channel, hopefully what you're offering and what you're giving is a lot more value than what the person is getting, right? So I like to think these live streams are like that you guys are getting to pick my brain. The vast majority of you, it costs $0. Every once in a while, people like you, Dave, give super chats. But like this whole thing, you know, if I do this for an hour or an hour and a half and I make $20, like that's a lot less than I would make doing so many other things. But I'm offering a lot of value, hopefully a lot of value to you guys, and you're getting something out of this beyond this video and this time. And from there, hopefully it spawns a lot more of you to take the time to invest in your skills, maybe joining codingforentrepreneurs.com, you know, maybe doing all these other things. But what I'm doing with these live streams is very similar to what you could do with this freelance work, where you're doing it for practically nothing. But over time, you're going to start to hit some momentum and then maybe surpass what you initially set out to do, right? So if I could become the #1 coding live streamer, what would that do for my career, right? I don't know. And I'm not saying that that's my goal at all. When I say #1, I mean like most watch. To me, my goal is actually to help the right people, not everybody. I can't help everybody, even if I'd like to, but helping the right people like yourself and like many other people who show up, do the work, ask great questions, invest in themselves, and continuously do that. Those are the people I want to help. And that's not everyone. Everyone's not like that. Everyone doesn't have that in their DNA. So you yourself with freelancing, initially you're just going to take on as much as you can for as little as possible, but don't do it for free. You can freelance for free, but unfortunately, especially when it is building software, doing it for free, it almost always stays that way, right? So like, for example, Dave, if you were going to do some amazing things for me for free and you put it on my GitHub or you did some commits on your GitHub, I would absolutely adore and love you for doing that. But that doesn't mean that I would be like, oh, Dave, I definitely am going to hire you now to do all these things, right? Like I would probably reach into my pool of people that I hire from time to time and just hire them. So that happens in a lot of companies. So to me, you go where the money actually is, right? So like if you are trying to sell a book, you're probably not going to want to sell that book in front of a library, right? You're probably going to want to sell that book at Barnes & Noble or on Amazon or whatever. But if you sell in front of a bunch of free books, you might not find it. But I mean, that might actually work, but because you're in front of a captive audience that's looking for books. But you know, you go where the actual money is. And with freelancing, Upwork's a great place. What's another one? Freelancer's another one. You know, so there's a lot of good sources for that. Cool. Thanks for the question, Dave. Hopefully that answers what you were asking. Next one. How do you encode serverless multi-tenant SaaS on AWS? I don't actually know exactly what your goal is here for serverless. Hang on one second, guys. Hey. Hi, kids. Oh, yeah. Yeah. 1 second, everyone. I'm just going to put this on pause. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Had to help my my wife and kids real quick. Let's see, where were we? Encode serverless multi-tenant SaaS on AWS. Multi-tenant serverless, you'd probably need to use Kubernetes and something like Knative, and then Docker and Docker containers and all that for the serverless part of things. I think it would be a lot easier to do that on GCP, Google Cloud Platform, because of the Kubernetes offering. Yes. Alternatives to VS Code for JavaScript. Atom, ATOM by GitHub is another option. I am all ears for other things. You know what I mean? Let's see here. Do you have some kind of snippet manager / collection, or always refer to documentation for projects? Yeah, this is actually something that I've thought a lot more about doing, where it's like common features or functions that I'm using throughout my projects. I probably need to make it a little bit more clear. I know that so somewhere like Google has this huge library of things, of algorithms and functions that they have that anyone on their team can access. That might be something that would be really good for all of us, right? All of our students. Yeah. Code projects live. Yes, it looks like you guys wanted that. You're going to update your course, Coding for Entrepreneurs, live Python. I'm assuming you're talking about my Udemy course from a while back. I have, if you go to Python e-commerce, that is the updated version of that. It's a different course. But perhaps I need to come back to actually doing more things that are just generally speaking Coding for Entrepreneurs, not like all of the different projects I do in codingforentrepreneurs.com and on this YouTube channel. Yeah. Let's see here. Only learning Django and a database management system enough for a project without learning React for front end using Bootstrap. Yeah, you can absolutely only use Django and Bootstrap, or just Django and Model View templates, right? It doesn't, those things, either way, can go either way. Thanks for the question. C#, huh? Is that a suggestion or a invalid vote? I'm guessing invalid vote. Cool. This is from a while back. You think, just so you know, votes, you can do both things. Just add a new hash. All right. I'm going to go to a little bit newer of one. I'm like almost 40 minutes behind again. You guys heard that? Yes, that was my 3-year-old daughter just coming into my office and saying hi. And they're going over to daycare. So it was cute. Thank you. Being a parent is a lot of fun. It's definitely a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. There's like, to me you don't understand what loving a human is like until you and your spouse or your significant other have a human. Like the love for both my wife and my daughters is astronomical. You just can't understand it until you actually go through it yourself. To me, there's really parents and everybody else, right? Like if you're a parent, you totally get it. If you're not, then it's just really hard to explain exactly how meaningful those things are. It really is. Even me telling you this, you're probably just like, okay, sure, whatever. If you don't have children. If you do have children, you're going, yep, absolutely, yep. That's how it goes. So I had to re-authenticate with my questions. Just give me a second here. All those live glitches. Gotta love the live glitches. Just kidding, I do not love live glitches at all. Let's see here. It's not the right one. 1 second, guys. 1 second. It's weird because things that were working are not working now. Of course. That one. That one. Okay, guys, so I'm going to have to pull the on deck and the pull for now. My little service doing that is not working, so it's probably close to calling it a day on this, but yes. Let's see here. Dave, another question you've got for me. DigitalOcean versus AWS. Should I host my database on something separate as my web app? Yes. So when in doubt, use managed databases, right? So managed databases are great because you don't have to manage them, and they worry about the uptime and the backups and the security holes and all that. I believe DigitalOcean has a managed database. So also, your database should not be on the exact same server as your application anyway. It should be in the same cluster, most likely, or the virtual private cloud. But you don't want to have it on the same server because if your application goes down, which is a lot more likely to happen than your database server hopefully going down, or at least they would be isolated from one another, you know. That is probably the preferred way of running into issues, is when your application server goes down, not your database server. So, yes, and we are back. Thanks, Dave. Good question. Okay, polls are back too. All the little glitches. How do you deploy Django to a cloud host? What do the ports mean? I cover the cloud host stuff a lot. So I have stuff for DigitalOcean, AWS, GCP, all of those things on codingforentrepreneurs.com. Ports are different for different kinds of applications. So without getting into too much of the technical detail there, because I'm going to be hopping off here in just a minute, it's just like... for example, Django, your web application often runs off of the 8000 port. And that's typical for a lot of web applications, or the 5000 port. So, yeah, I probably, without getting into too much of those things, I just like, hopefully that answers your question. A lot of the services you use will have their own specific ports. But it sounds like there might be a lot of things that aren't clear to you as far as how hosting works. So if you're really interested in the backend DevOps things, like everything you just mentioned, take a look at the channel network check. Okay, let's see. Let's find another question here. Do you use any kind of design patterns in projects? I think it's a waste of time to learn them because most of the time you will never need them. So what kind of design patterns are you referring to? Like, I think if you spend too much time on like wireframing, for example, you're losing like momentum, right? So you shouldn't spend a whole lot of time wireframing and stuff like that, if that's what you're referring to. Thanks for the question, though. Okay, here I'm going to go to more of the recent questions again. TinyMCE is giving issues. Any suggestions? Probably actually using a static file server, I think, will help. But yeah, I've had issues with TinyMCE as well. I would say, look, read the actual issues that are on GitHub, because a lot of them might actually give you suggestions on how to solve some of those things too. How to create plots in matplotlib and render them to templates in Django? This is a good question. I haven't actually tried to do this, because usually what I'll end up doing for graphs and charts is I'll use Chart.js and a Django backend to do the actual rendering. I think Chart.js is really good for that. Matplotlib, another option that you would consider doing is creating one of those plots in Matplotlib, save it as an image, and then having Django rendering whatever that image is. So it's not necessarily interactive, but it is accomplishing the same thing that you're wanting to have. If you want the interactive side, I think Chart.js is one of the best, if not the best. Look at this. My Django course landed me a job. Thank you. Which one, Tony? And what kind of job? Are you a Django developer? I'm assuming you are by that comment. It's great to hear. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. You want to make a CMS using Django? You totally can. Model view templates, man. Model view templates. That's the way to do it. All right. A couple more questions, and then I'm going to be heading out of here. Let's see here. These same questions over and over. Do people just copy and paste the question? Is that must be common, huh? With this user. Oh, you can put them in a timeout. That's funny. Yeah, see, clearly I still have some bugs. Like this shouldn't be showing up here. I already talked about this a long time ago. But yeah. Okay, guys, so I'm going to answer a few more questions. I'm just loading some more up. Josh, are these live Q&As recorded? They are recorded and stored on YouTube, but I don't have them public yet. What I'm wanting to do is actually answer these questions and have literal tags for the timestamps for these questions. But perhaps I should just release them and not necessarily have that feature in there. I just wanted to make it as effective as possible as future releases, you know? Actually, this will give me another live poll. I'm just gonna write up a live poll real fast and have you guys ask it. Okay, so hopefully this question makes sense, and we'll be able to get a more solid response here. There we go. Please vote on that now before I actually turn off this whole thing. Mm-hmm. You like listening to him. Thanks, Josh. You listen to like it'd be like a podcast in the background. Interesting. Yeah, because I try to do my best at repeating the question, so hopefully that is a good way to do it. Yeah, so it looks like a lot of you actually do want these public after being live. I didn't necessarily think that, like my sense was, hey, Peter Condor, use a hashtag in front of it, just like it says here. But my thought was, if it's live, you kind of want to just jump in, ask those questions, hopefully get answered quickly. But then if you're listening along with it, you'll hear other questions come out. But then also like some of the pauses and some of the things that I'm like, you know, it's not always the greatest podcast-like format because I'm answering these questions. Sometimes I get interrupted, you know, all of those sorts of things. You know. But I'll bring them live. I'll just do it. I'll put them all live. Whatever. Let's do this thing, huh? Wait, somebody. Okay. Now, is this sarcasm? This feels like sarcasm. I think it is probably. An amazing script you wrote there, huh, Assad? Yes. Yes. That's sarcasm. Without a doubt. Why is there not enough resources for Django with React? Because my opinion is a Django REST API and React don't need each other. They can be by themselves. They're isolated. So a lot of React developers aren't necessarily building a Django backend. A lot of Django developers aren't building only React as their front end. They do interact a lot, but I really enjoy them. So the reason I don't have enough resources is, well, time. It's just not enough time to do all the things that I really want to do. I think that's what it really comes down to. You know what I mean? Okay, so after this one, I think I'm going to head out. What is my suggestions for Vue with Django? Similar to my suggestion for React and Angular, you just need to build a Django REST framework, a Django REST API, using the Django REST framework, and then having Vue or React or Angular actually consume that API. And where you host the ready to deploy version of Angular, React, or Vue does not need to be where Django is. They can be in separate services altogether. Like literally, you could serve your React project completely or Vue project completely on AWS S3 and have your Django project somewhere else, completely somewhere else, where they're not even touching each other. The way that they connect then is through REST API calls. Now, to me, I also do like having them interacted or integrated with Django, and having Django serve the static, the actual template, the HTML itself, but not the static files, not the JS or the CSS, having those things on S3 still. But the actual index file itself doesn't need to be in S3. It can be run through Django. The reason I like doing this is because then I can have other non-JavaScript pages still. You know what I mean? So that's definitely, I think, a big reason why you would integrate the two there. Thanks for the question and for the live chat. Okay, so I think that's gonna do it, you guys. A lot of good questions, and as usual, I'm like so far behind on answering them. You know. Full stack using Node.js and Express.js versus Python and Django. It's amazing how much I get this question. Is there like a school that I don't know about that is like constantly comparing Node.js with Django? Or is it just like Node.js is popular, Django is popular? Which one should I pick? Maybe that's where it's originating from. I think every project has its own challenges. So just to reiterate something I talked about earlier, Node.js is a runtime, and a better comparison would be Node.js and Express.js versus Python and Flask or Python and FastAPI. Those are like closer to one-to-one comparisons because they don't have all the things out of the box. Django, like if WordPress is here and building your own web application from scratch without Django or Python or Express.js is down here, FastAPI, Flask, Express is here. Django is here. It's like right between WordPress and Flask, FastAPI, Express, out of the box, right? They can all get to the WordPress level, absolutely, and beyond that, right? All of them, literally all of them. So it actually doesn't matter that much. But I will say that if you want something that's full featured out of the box, I think Django is by far the best choice for that. I don't actually know of a JavaScript version of something like Django. I don't know of one. Please let me know if you do, where it's like full featured. It has database management in there by default. It has authentication in there by default. So like some sort of integration to a SQL server or even a NoSQL server. All of those things. So yeah. Okay, guys. So thanks so much for watching. I see towards the end of this, I'm getting a lot of just sort of copy and paste questions. Like, I don't understand why this person thinks I'm gonna more likely to answer those. I don't know. Maybe it's just a hope. That must be what it is, right? It's just a hope that I'm gonna answer these spam questions, you know? Must be that. Must be that. How often are you guys going on live streams? This should actually be a poll. I just don't have it right now. But if you're going on live streams all the time, I'm really curious about that. And what you think I can do better. That's actually something really important. I alluded to it earlier with that poll, but if you can think of things that I can do better, shoot me a tweet and let me know. You can also comment here, but I know that like doing more projects, actually building a project and then discussing it as we build it, that's probably something that would be a good way to do things. But yeah, I do appreciate you guys coming out. It's great to see all of you asking all these good questions. Pipeline, thank you for coming out. It sounds like some Django async you want to have. Yeah, so yeah, thanks guys, and hope to see you in the next live chat. Be sure to check out the bootcamp related things too. Be on the lookout for that, because I want to do a lot more really like in-depth building and solving problems that you may be having. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks again.